Hey friend, welcome back. We have made it to week 8 of this pantry challenge. This is our final week. Honestly, it has flown by. I've been absolutely loving it. And this week I just want to do some fun things. I want to try a new recipe and we'll just see where the week takes us. I am currently sipping on a peach banana orange smoothie that I whipped together that you've seen in some of my previous weeks. So that is my breakfast. And I want to get going on our dinner. So last week at the end of the video, I made French onion or caramelized onion meatballs. And so today we are going to put those to use. I want to make little like meatball boats. I don't know. I think they would make such a good appetizer. And so I just want to kind of try it. I don't know. I don't really have a plan for this. I have a few hesitations on any direction that I take for it. And I have just a few ideas. So we'll kind of see where this takes us. I think I might do it a couple different ways and just see what works best, but we'll see. So first thing I need to do is get going on my dough. I am going to make this with brioche bread, and I have made this brioche bread many times. I have a full recipe. I have a full video on the detailed recipe if you want to follow along on that. So I'm just going to whip this brioche bread together very quickly. I don't know how much of the bread I'm going to need. So if we have extra, we might make a cinnamon swirl bread. I don't know. Clearly this is all just trial and error. Let's see where it takes us. The first thing we need to do is this brioche bread. All right, so for this, I am gonna just start with my sugar, mostly because I need this tablespoon for my milk. So I need 2.5 tablespoons of sugar. And then I also need 2 teaspoons of yeast. Whoa. And I just keep my yeast in my freezer and it literally lasts for forever. Okay, then I'm adding in 1 cup of warm water. Into that warm water, I have added in 3 tablespoons of milk. And I'm just gonna give that a quick stir to make sure none of the yeast or sugar got stuck at the bottom. Next, I'm gonna add in 2 eggs, and these are just full eggs. There's 1. And 2. Then here I have 2.5 tablespoons of softened butter. I need 1.5 teaspoons of salt. This is just a half teaspoon, so I'll do 3 of them. And then finally, I need 3.5 cups of bread flour. We might add, oh geez, that was silly. We'll definitely have to add more now. That's okay. My cup was a little wet. I think that's what caused the ruckus. I didn't realize it was wet. There's 3. And we'll stick with our half for now. Now I'm gonna get this into the bread machine. And I got this bread maker or bread machine from the family that lived here before us. They left it when they moved. And so I always, every time I use it, I thank them for the beautiful housewarming gift. It's very generous of them. All right, we're just gonna do the dough setting, start, and it will whisk this all around, knead it up, and then we'll check it, see if it needs a little bit more flour. There is our beautiful dough. That is what I love about the bread machine, is it makes the kneading process literally so simple. And I just have some oil on my hands to prevent it from sticking. This is a pretty sticky dough and kind of hard to work with just because we want it very hydrated. That's what brioche is. It's very light and fluffy. So let's get that added in. Okay, here is my ball of dough. It is literally so beautiful. And I'm going to put it in this bowl. You could put it in, keep it in here. It's just too tall for my oven. So I'm going to stick this in my oven on proof and let this double in size, and then we will get it shaped. So first I just sprayed my cutting board with a little bit of olive oil in order to help it not stick. Then I sprayed my hands as well. Because this is such a moist dough, I don't want to add any more flour because that can make it more dense. We want this to be really light and fluffy, so I find that just using oil makes that a lot easier. So here I'm just shaping it into a circle, and you can see how beautiful this dough is. It is so simple and so yummy. And I am just going to cut it into equal parts. So what I'm going to do is basically make dinner rolls, and then we're going to take those dinner rolls and incorporate the meatballs into them a few different ways to make like a meatball sandwich boat type situation. So all I'm doing is just rolling it into a circle and then cutting it into multiple pieces. This took me a couple of tries because you always have to remember that the dough that you lay out always gets twice the size. So each of these rolls, I thought that I had a good shape, and then as I was laying them on the cookie sheet, decided I should probably have them about half that size because they will double in size. So I go ahead and cut them, then I realize what I'm doing. I will cut them again to make them a little bit smaller. This size right here is perfect for like a hamburger bun, for example, but it is way too big for a dinner roll. So I'm just going to lay these out and get them on the sheet. Here I'm shaping my rolls. This is really important because we're just trying to get the gluten strands all uniform. So all I'm doing is just taking my pinky and my thumb, and I roll the dough back and forth. I'm kind of pulling down with my thumb and pushing up with my pinky, and that helps make these gluten strands uniform so that they will rise better. So it looks a little bit complicated, but I promise after you do it a couple of times, it becomes very simple. You're just rolling it between your palm, your thumb, and your pinky, pulling down with one, pushing up with the other, depending on what direction you roll it. I am left-handed, so I'm probably doing it backwards compared to how a righty would do it. Now, traditionally, these don't need to rise again, so once I got my dough balls ready, I should have just baked it right then and there. However, I knew it was way too early for dinner and we were going out on a walk, so I just shaped the balls. Then I put it in the oven to proof again, and so this is a double risen dough. Traditionally, you will not do that, but that is just what I had to do here to make it fit into the right time slot. So I'm trying to do these a couple different ways. The first way I'm trying it is to go ahead and wrap the dough around the meatball. And I know there was no purpose in making the dough rise to completely reshape it, but I was nervous about having the meatball sit in the oven while this dough was rising because I didn't want it to go bad. So I was going back and forth in my head a few times. Sam came over. His idea was to just plop a meatball on top of the dough. Then his other idea was to put the meatball underneath the dough and kind of give it like a turtle shell. So we tried all of these ways. My initial idea was to make the dinner roll and then cut out the center, put cheese in the bottom, a meatball on top, and top it with some sauce to make a yummy little meatball type float. So we do it all of the ways, and I will show you our favorite here at the end. But then I went ahead and just egg washed it like I could, and then baked it at 350 degrees until each of them were done. The dough wrapped in the meatballs took a little bit longer to bake than just the rolls did, so I just started pulling things out as they were ready to go. Here you can see our beautiful dinner rolls. Again, they didn't need that second rise, and that's why they have that kind of weird wrinkle to them. So traditionally just rise the dough, shape the dough, put it in the oven and bake it, but it honestly was perfect. So here you can just see I am cutting out a hole into the center of this roll, and I'm going to use that as kind of the home for the meatball. So I cut off the center, pushed the center dough down just so there was somewhere for the meatball to go, and then placed it in with some cheese and marinara sauce. And this way actually ended up being our favorite. It was really good ratio between the meat, the cheese, the sauce, and the dough. We did end up putting some garlic butter on the top, so it was like garlic bread with the meatball, and this honestly just worked the best. We did bake it just to melt off that cheese and warm up the meatballs. And then at the end, you can see here our side-by-side comparisons. So Sam's turtle shell one It did not stay on the meatball. The meatball got too brown on the one where we just set the meatball on top. And then the one where we wrapped the meatball was actually really good too. The dough wasn't super light and fluffy. It was a little bit more dense because we didn't have that rise to it. So we found our favorite was the dough ball, or the dough cut out with the meatball on the inside. It was so, so good. This was homemade pizza sauce from our tomato gardens, and it was honestly just the perfect meal. Hey friend, welcome back. It is Tuesday evening and I'm getting going on dinner, and you might remember this, our elk roast that we made during week 6 of the Pantry Challenge. So I just put it in this glass container and it has been frozen since, and we are going to put it to great use. I also have a half of an onion that is already chopped up that also needs to get used up. It will be going to great use. Tonight we are going to make elk stroganoff. So this is actually going to be so easy because the hardest part is making the meat. I love to use leftover meat for this kind of recipe, like a leftover roast or leftover steaks or whatever you have. Honestly, any kind of red meat will be absolutely perfect, but it's the perfect way to take a meat or a recipe that you had previously made and turn it into something else, so no one even knows you're eating the same thing twice. It's just a different form. So my meat is done. I need to get my mushrooms and onions together. We're gonna cook those up, then we will add our meat back in, throw it on some pasta. It's going to be seriously so simple, yet so yummy. It has been a busy, busy day, and I love simple meals like this where we're still eating so good and so well. Let's get going. All right, so because I already have my meat cooked, I am going to get going on my onions and my mushrooms. I just need to saute them up, get them nice and cooked. If you don't have meat and you want to make stroganoff, all you have to do is just thinly slice whatever cut of steak you want, almost like you're making a Philly. Make sure you're cutting against the grain, and just pan sear it on really hot. Make sure that you're kind of browning it. Cook as much meat as you want and just really thinly slice. It will cook so dang fast. So if you are not using leftover meat, you're going to do that now, cook that up. And then once that gets cooked up, you're gonna leave the brown bits in the bottom, and you are going to add in onions and mushrooms. And if you're new here, I keep my mushrooms in a freezer bag in the freezer. I just wash them when I get them, slice them, chuck them in the freezer if I'm not using them fresh, and they turn out perfectly. So I need, I don't know, I'm just gonna really measure this with my heart. They cook down pretty good. And it's kind of like the star of the show, right? It might be too many, but is there such thing? I don't know. All right, there's my onions and my mushrooms. And I'm just gonna let these fry up for a little bit. And then once they cook down, we'll throw a little garlic in. All right, we are cooking away nicely. I'm gonna throw in a little bit of garlic. That's just minced garlic that I previously had frozen, just in a little ball. Let that cook down. Oh, it smells so good. And then I'm gonna add some salt and some pepper. Get those nice and toasty. And I'm gonna turn the heat down just a little bit. All right, now I'm gonna add in 1 tablespoon of flour. Just sprinkle that in. And give it a mix. And we're doing this because if we were to, this is gonna be our thickening agent. If we were to just put broth in here and cream and add the flour in, it would chunk up. But if we do it this way and coat the vegetables in the flour, let that cook for just a minute, it will not. All right, let's let that flour cook for just a second. And now that that's where we want it, I'm gonna add in 1 cup of beef broth, which is half a can. Let's mix that all around. See how we don't have any lumps? That's exactly what we wanted with the flour. If you want this gluten-free, you can just use gluten-free flour. That will work perfectly. This will start thickening up. All right, then I'm going to add in some milk just slowly. And we don't want this to boil. We just want it to simmer. If it boils, it will curdle. Okay. Oops, making a mess over here. Perfect. I'm going to turn the heat on to like a low. And we're going to let that simmer and just thicken up for a couple minutes. All right, and while we let that simmer, I'm going to put 1/4 of a cup of, this is light sour cream, into, we'll call that 1/4 cup, into this glass jar. Okay, next I just need to kind of temper some sour cream. Okay, this should be a little easier. So we're just going to slowly incorporate some of this in. We're just trying to raise the base temperature of the sour cream so that when we add it in with everything else, it doesn't curdle. We'll continue to stir as we pour it in. Let me stir that in, then I'll scrape the container. Excellent, we did it well. All right, next we're gonna add in a tablespoon. I'm gonna have to go get more. Worcestershire. And that really makes stroganoff. And then we need about a teaspoon, or however much comes out, of a, normally you use Dijon. I don't have that, so I'm gonna use grainy, which will add some grain to this, but that's fine. And then you can taste it for salt and pepper. Okay, I just added in a little pepper. Now I'm gonna throw in my meat. And again, this was pot roast, so it has really good flavoring that we'll be adding into this as well. There is a few carrots and potatoes in here. I tried to get them out the best that I could, but it'll still be good, I'm sure of it. Let's start with that. We're just gonna incorporate this into the sauce. And it's still a little frozen, so it will definitely break apart. I'm just gonna let this simmer, incorporate, all the flavors come together. And in the meantime, let's get our pasta going. All right, I'm just throwing some water on to boil. Hey friend, welcome back to another evening in the kitchen. Today I had a protein shake for breakfast. I had leftovers for lunch, meatballs, and now we're gonna get going on dinner. So I have, in the fresh food category, I have some lettuce, I have an onion, and I have a couple tomatoes left. And so I want to make a grilled steak, like horseradish aioli type of sandwich for dinner tonight. We have a few hoagies. We also have some of our brioche if we need that. So I think this is gonna be really simple and really good, but with my onions, I wanna do caramelized onions just so we get that like really rich, almost sweet flavor. I think that will be so good with some horseradish aioli. I'm really excited for this. I've been thinking about it all day. So let's get going. I'm gonna get my onions sliced up. Then we will just get our meat marinating just for a little bit. Then while our onions are caramelizing, our meat can marinate, and this dinner is gonna get pulled together very, very quickly. So let's go. And for caramelizing onions, I actually like to slice my onions the long way, this way. I find they just caramelize a lot easier. Okay, that simple. We're gonna get these in a pan. Turn that on to medium heat just for it to warm up, and then once it's warm, we'll turn that down. I'm gonna add a good amount of oil. All right, we're gonna call that hot enough. Let's add our onions in. And then I'm going to just salt these, let some of that moisture come out. And then we'll get these a nice mix. I'm gonna turn them on to low heat and we're gonna let these cook low and slow. All right, so for our meat, I'm just going to get this added into our bowl. And this is elk. And these are little tenderloin, we call them medallions. Just because they're so little. And here's our bigger back straps, elk as well. All right, something wild happened for the first time in my cooking life. And that is we ran out of Worcestershire sauce. And if you cook a lot of red meat, you know the tragedy that is. So luckily the pantry challenge is about over because I don't think I could go all that long without Worcestershire sauce. We absolutely love it. Okay, so all I'm doing for this marinade is I'm doing a little bit of soy sauce, some teriyaki sauce, and this is a garlic gochujang sauce. I might not be saying that correctly. And I'm just gonna do a little salt and pepper, and that's it. I just find that those seasonings are so yummy and really make for a really nice marinade. Doesn't really take away from the flavor of the meat at all. I feel like it just kind of enhances it. Probably should have mixed the marinade before adding the meat in, but we're trying to hurry. I gotta get dinner on the table. And I'm gonna put this off to the side and we're just gonna let this marinade for probably only about half an hour or so. Okay, so I just flipped over, I obviously cleaned the counter off. I flipped over my cutting board from the onion because I don't want that harsh onion flavor on my vegetables. That's why we're caramelizing them. Or on my, yeah, I don't want it on my vegetables. That's why we're caramelizing the onions to avoid that. So I'm going to slice some tomato. Then what I'm gonna do to my tomatoes is I'm going to just cut around the seeds. I don't want like a really juicy, crazy messy tomato. You know how sometimes it can make your bread a little soggy. I'm not going for that. So I'm gonna just cut the seeds out of my tomatoes where I feel they're too big. And then we won't have like a soupy sandwich from our tomatoes. So now we're getting started on the aioli. I did not measure this, but it's probably 2 or 3 tablespoons of mayo. I did about a half a teaspoon of garlic and then added in probably about 2 tablespoons or so of raw horseradish. Now, if you have the creamy horseradish, you can just use that on your sandwich. That's basically what I'm making, but adding in a little bit of garlic and some pepper as well to it. So once the pepper's in, I just gave this a really quick stir and that was our sauce. It was really, really good, not super spicy, but had the perfect kind of twang for the sandwiches. Next, we are grilling our steaks. So once the pan was hot, I started with my 2 backstrap steaks just because they were so much bigger than the tenderloins. So I cooked those until they were almost done and then threw the tenderloin pieces on very quickly just because it cooked so fast. And here you can see our beautiful steak all sliced up. We like our steak between medium rare and medium. Sam likes medium rare. I like medium, so he normally eats the inside pieces and I normally eat the outside pieces. Make sure, as always, you are cutting against the grain and you will have beautiful, tender slices of meat for your sandwiches. Here you can see we are just assembling. Sam did put pepper jack cheese on the bottom side of his, then added in his steak, a little bit of that aioli sauce with the horseradish, tomatoes, lettuce, and at the very end he added on some caramelized onions. He said this was one of the best sandwiches he has ever had, and we make Phillies all the time, so this was definitely one to keep in mind on the rotation when we want something kind of similar to a Philly but are feeling something a little different or don't have any peppers in the freezer. And here is a final look at my sandwich. The caramelized onions absolutely made it. This was so dang good. Friend, how have we already gotten here? It is the last day of week 8 of the Pantry Challenge, which means it is the last day of the 2024 Pantry Challenge. I can't believe how we made it all this way. Last year, I did a 6-week Pantry Challenge, I believe it was, and this year I wanted to stretch myself and do an 8-week, and honestly, I feel like I have a little more gas in the tank. I could go another week or 2 probably. We're not going to. I'm gonna go spoil us with some fresh herbs and fresh fruit and vegetables, but we have enough, honestly, to keep us going for a very good while, to be completely honest. But don't worry, today we still have a little bit of cooking to do. If you were here for week, what was that? 2 maybe? Of the Pantry Challenge, you will remember I made spaghetti and meat sauce, and I saved some of it and put it in a freezer meal. And so I want to get this big container out of the freezer because that was the whole point of this Pantry Challenge. And so I am going to have this spaghetti for us for dinner tonight. And then I went downstairs and pulled out some of my carrots from the storage room, and that's just where I keep them in wood chips, and they are still, I mean, you can see there was a wood chip stuck to it, but they are still crunchy and crispy and phenomenal. So with these, we are going to make a little celebration cake. We are going to make carrot cake. Sam's been working super hard at work. I just want to have a little celebration tonight. So we're going to have spaghetti and carrot cake for dessert. So I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to do like a carrot cake or carrot cupcakes. I'm leaning towards carrot cupcakes because then we don't have to eat the whole thing. We can just eat a couple and then freeze the rest if we don't want them all. Okay, now that I'm talking to you, friend, thank you. We are going to make carrot cake cupcakes. So first thing I need to do is get these all washed up, and then we will get that going. I just have this sitting off to the side, defrosting in the refrigerator, and we're gonna get these cupcakes done. Okay, so first thing I need to do is just get my carrots washed up. Hold on, let me grab a scrub. So there's not a ton of dirt on these carrots. There's just some wood chips and such that is on them. So I just put a fine mesh kind of stopper, you can see it down there, in my sink. That way I am not washing anything big down. I do have a garbage disposal, but it's not the best. So, and I also don't like to put, wood down my garbage disposal. So this is what I prefer to do when I'm washing carrots that have been in my storage down in their wood chips, just to make sure that I'm, being nice on my plumbing. And look at how beautiful these carrots are. I'm so proud of them. Some of them were really big, some of them weren't. My growing season got very short for these carrots, so I am so proud of them. And we will probably peel a lot of them. The ones that are looking good, I don't really see a purpose. So I'm gonna get these all scrubbed up, and then we can get going on our carrot cake. All right, our carrots are washed up, and you know what I should do? I'm gonna slide this off to the side. We can get this assembled. But one thing I definitely want to do is just cut off the tops of these and the bottoms where they're looking not so great. I decided not to peel these just because look at how beautiful. They look so pretty. All of the carrots look like that. So I decided I am not going to peel them because why waste that bit of carrot if I don't need to, but I am going to take off the tops and then any weird bottoms. And I only need 1.5 cups of carrots for this, but I decided while I'm at it, I may as well do a few more. And if I don't need them all, then whatever, we can use like a carrot salad. We can make a carrot salad or something. Okay, here is my shredded carrots. So we're gonna put this off to the side and get the rest of our ingredients going. Okay, one of you actually recommended, let's get this in grams, that I weigh out my baking. So I am maybe, whoa, geez, maybe I'm too clumsy. I have never done that, and I'm not a great baker, and maybe this is why, because I don't weigh anything out. I need 157 grams of flour. Okay, then I need 100 grams of white sugar. So let's zero that out. Okay, there's 100 grams of white sugar. That feels like a lot of white sugar. I feel like all of these measurements seem like a lot more than I would normally do. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's not a good thing. Okay, now it's saying 102, so let's take just a little bit of sugar out. Now we need 100 grams of brown sugar. Okay, there's 100. Now I need 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. And mine's a little clumpy, so I to go in my hand first. There's one. I need a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. And my oven is preheating to 350 degrees at the moment. I need a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. One teaspoon of cinnamon. I'm choosing the 1/2, so we'll do 2 of these. And I like mine a little cinnamony, so we'll do a little extra. We need a 1/4 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. Perfect. And we're going to just give this a good mix. Take it off the scale for our mixing. Okay, we'll call that good. Back on the scale, zero it out. Actually, I need to change this unit to milliliters. Then I'm gonna add in 2 eggs. That's 1. And these are room temp eggs. 2. We need 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla, which we always measure with our heart. It's definitely more. I need 2 tablespoons of milk. 1, 2. Our carrots. Got a little wild there. We need 170 grams. Perfect. All right, let's get this mixing. We'll go slow. This is very full. I probably should have like mixed a little and then added ingredients, but here we are. Alrighty, let's get these scooped up. So first thing I'm gonna do is put in my cupcake liner. And I usually only prepare one at a time because I never know how many we're actually gonna make. Okay, then we're gonna take our scoop and start filling each tin. And we want them all relatively the same size. All right, this is what we ended up with. I'm gonna get these in the oven for about 20 or so minutes. All right, our cupcakes are done. It's always a little hard. There we go. And I do need to make the frosting for these. So first I'm gonna get these on a rack to dry or to cool. Could probably wait a little longer, but I decided I'm doing it now, so I'm gonna do it now. All right, last cupcake. Perfect. Best part about these is they can go in the dishwasher. So as soon as those are cool, we'll get them in the dishwasher. And I'm just gonna leave these here to cool down for a little bit because we're going to frost them, but definitely not until they're fully cooled. Okay, so while those cool, I wanna get going on the frosting, and I am just gonna make a half a batch of frosting because I mean, there's no way we're gonna eat 24 cupcakes between the two of us anytime soon, and I don't wanna freeze them with the frosting on. So I'm doing a half a batch, so that's a half a block of cream cheese. This is a half a stick of butter, both of which have been softened. All right, let's mix those together. And while that mixes, I'm gonna add in like a half a teaspoon or so of vanilla. And then we're gonna add in 2 cups of powdered sugar. I don't normally cook like this, so that feels like a lot of powdered sugar. I try to keep things healthier, but we're celebrating, right? Sometimes you gotta live on the edge. Okay, we'll call that 1 cup. Give that a mix. All right, we're looking good. I'm gonna give that a quick scrape. I love cream cheese frosting. All right, friend, it is official. I just need to frost these cupcakes once they cool down, and we are done with the Pantry Challenge for 2024. I love the Pantry Challenge. I just think it is such a good reminder. I think so often, and in this lifestyle of living outside of town, I don't go to the grocery store every day or every week, and so I do stockpile a lot of food, and sometimes I just am craving a specific thing, and so I will go to the grocery store and pick that up. I'll say, I really want orzo salad, so I'll go get all of the ingredients to make orzo salad, and it's just a really good reminder that we don't necessarily need those things right away. It's okay to make a list of things we want, and then the next time I go to the grocery store, I can definitely make it. But I have so many ingredients that we work so hard to store up for the year that it's just so important that I am getting through those and using them, and they are so yummy and so delicious. So next video, I will be going through the freezers and showing you kind of the state of those. I'll be going through lessons learned, but I seriously just loved the Pantry Challenge. I had so much fun, and like I said at the beginning, I could have done probably a couple more weeks, no problem, but I am excited to go get some fresh fruits and vegetables. All we have left in fresh fruit and vegetable is a little bit of romaine lettuce, some cabbage, and then some squash, pumpkins, and carrots. So I think we might be out of, no, we have a couple onions left, We're pretty much out of garlic. We did a really good job, made a huge dent on so much food. And honestly, I'm really proud. That's a ton of work that we put in to not only preserve it, but also make really yummy meals out of all of those things. And I feel like we just did a great job. So I hope you enjoyed this series. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. And I am so excited for all of the freezer meals we'll be making together soon now that I have room in my freezer, the snacks, and we have garden season coming up here so soon. So I am definitely going to bring you along for that as well. And I am really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for being here and for your continued support. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing if you like this video so you don't miss any of the next ones. And I will catch you in the next one. I will see you later, friend. Bye. All right, to close out the official pantry challenge, here is my not so pretty frosted cupcake. I love carrot cake. This is so good. Sam's gonna be so excited. It's one of his absolute favorites as well. He might be sad I didn't put raisins in it, but that ruins carrot cake if you ask me. Okay, I gotta go enjoy this cupcake. Bye, friend.